U.S. men's national team moves on, but at one hell of a cost. Can they face off against Belgium without Balogun? We're going to talk about that and a lot more right now.
Stand up, we gon' make some moves tonight. Yeah, stand up, got something to prove tonight. So stand up, we ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright. We ain't gonna stall, never stop. We gon' make it all till the top. We ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright.
Folks, what's going on? My name is Scott Churchton. Alongside me, as always, is Mr. Bill Akins, and this is Soccer Sports Writers React. We've got a ton of stuff we're going to be talking about, all within, basically, for the most part, the U.S. men's national team. The win that they had last night against Bosnia Herzegovina, the red card against Balogun, which we're going to really deep dive that one big time, and previewing as well the match that they got upcoming against Belgium, because that's the first time not only that they faced a top 10 team, but the first time they faced a top 20 team. And now they're going to be doing without their leading scorer. First of all, just want to check in on you. Bill, how the heck are you, man?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Allergies are killing me, but I'm all right.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. All right. So, like I said, let's kick this off right now. U.S. men's national team does pick up a win, a 2-0 win. So props again to another clean sheet here, and move on to the round of 16 with a 2-0 win over Bosnia Herzegovina. From a personal level, I'm kind of happy about this, also because it means I have to stop trying to spell Herzegovina, because I have never been able to do that. I got to autocorrect that every single time. But a good win overall. Bosnia did a better job, I think, as being able to limit opportunities for the U.S. men's national team, with U.S. only getting 2 shots on goal and not being able to score until the 45th minute. Up until this recently, every single goal that was scored by the U.S. in some manner or form came within the first 11 minutes, 7 minutes against Paraguay, 11 minutes against Australia. Yes, both were own goals. And then 3 minutes in against Turkey by Triste. So the fact that Bosnia went all the way that far to the end of the first half before allowing a goal, I got to give some love and respect big time to that squad there. They were ranked 61st, but they sure didn't play like it last night. But it does open up some questions here, because a couple of holes showed up, including the loss of Balogun, not just in the red card and being down one man last night from a debatable red card, which we'll cover that a little bit, but also the fact that they're going to lose their top scorer against Belgium. So, first off, Bill, any thoughts when it came to the match last night?
I mean, it was U.S. I thought early on dictated the possession. They were really, but they were struggling to penetrate that Bosnian defense. It was just, very kind of stifling. Like you said, the breakthrough finally arrived in that 45th minute. Nice setup by Tim Ream. He intercepted that clearance, and Tillman was able to thread that pass to Balogun, and the rest is history. But
with a little bit of a lucky redirect in the process by Bosnia, which
right
also add to it. But yeah. So
yeah,
sorry,
I mean,
I off there.
No, it was it was like I said. Initially, they struggled to penetrate that Bosnian defense, but finally break through, and everything kind of was building from there. I thought they controlled the game in the second half, and I thought it was a good performance by them.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall in this case, the U.S. only got 2 shots on goal, so 2 shots, 2 goals. They had 2 goals disallowed though, also. So they had the one in the first half, one in the second half. Right. So the perseverance by the U.S. team in this case, despite the fact that they were struggling to put the ball in the net and had to face a situation they hadn't faced before, in the sense that they hadn't scored early and taken an advantage right out of the gate, was a new challenge for them. At this point, though, this team has never given up the first goal of the match yet. So 4 matches right now, U.S. took the lead for, in all 4 matches right out of there. So respect and props there.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this in a second here, but we probably should talk a little bit about the questionable decision on whether or not that was in fact a red card. So I'm going to swing over to this real quick. Let me show the image right now. That was deemed a red card here. It has gone back and forth on a lot of different fronts. One of the complaints that showed up was the fact that Lionel Messi had a situation very similar to this one that didn't even draw a yellow card. But, Messi is Messi, just like, Mbappe, Ronaldo, and, everybody else, the high level people.
Right.
My question to you here is, before we go super deep dive into this, do you think this was in fact a red card?
No, absolutely not. It was a ridiculous call. It was just it was a ridiculous call. The VAR review, I mean, it's just, I thought it was ridiculous.
I mean, I could argue a yellow in a case like this, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. But, he's chasing a loose ball. I mean, it's, it was ridiculous.
I get, go ahead. So,
yeah, it was a bad call. No doubt about it.
I mean, when it went over to VAR and he was going to the booth, I think all of us knew this was going to end up being a red card. As soon as they were debating, the severity of injury in this case and severity of action, it does, like I said, screw the U.S. team. Now, credit in this case, big time. The team stepped up. They held the 1-0 lead. They added a goal. They had another goal disallowed from another offside, which has been a concern because they've had a lot of goals that have been offset. Due to offsides here. They've had a lot of goals that have been overturned this tournament. So that is a concern to me, at least a little bit there, about why that continues to happen. And in some cases, they are so beyond blatantly obvious as what it is that it's a concern that they're playing forward that much. Maybe that's part of the style that they're forcing here, but it's emotionally draining when you have a goal overturned from an offside. Even if it's a legit offside, it's still an emotionally draining moment. But props to the U.S. team here for sticking with it, staying the course, and riding out to, honestly, like I said, another clean sheet. This team has been very good in that front, from a defense standpoint.
We picks up that foul in the 64th minute, or that red card in the 64th minute, and I'm thinking, oh man, you got a lot to play, a lot of time left, and can you hold this lead, and they were able to do it. I mean, I think they there was a lot of intense pressure. You noticed that they kind of with only 10 men, they dropped back and they were able to absorb that pressure from the Bosnian side, and then in the 82nd minute, you're able to get a another goal to kind of seal it. So.
Now, let me ask this. This is something that Robin and I were watching the match last night, and I asked her about this. I mentioned this to her. But the longer that match was going to go on, if it went into added time, the more likely Bosnia Herzegovina was going to have an advantage, just on a fatigue factor and a heat map.
Right.
I don't know if you agree with that or not, but do you think if Bosnia was able to get the equalizer, they could have won last night?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the way they were playing it, they could have definitely gotten the equalizer and, maybe even gotten a go-ahead goal after that. They were playing well. I mean, but like I said, they he had 10 men, and I thought that defensively they went into lockdown and they were able to, just thwart any runs by Bosnia. They were able to just defend it. So
yeah. And obviously, once they picked up that second goal, 81 minutes in, this match was going to be over anyway, because at that point, you can go in cruise control. But it's a massive, like I said, emotional loss for a lot of different reasons. And because the systems are not in place to review and overturn a VAR, which was the surprise of many, including Tom Bogert, the reality is this red card sticks. And there's no appeal process, and there's no ability to, I mean, you can complain all you want, but it's going to fall on deaf ears. Which means that they're going to be facing a Belgian team down their leading scorer, and a team that is a top 10 team that is very, very diversified. We're going to break down those numbers specifically in a minute. But that is a very balanced team there. And unfortunately for the U.S. team, most of their goals came from Balogun. He was their leading scorer by a long shot. So it's a concern with this red card.
Right. Yep. Agreed. So.
I don't know. I mean, I think, like I said, when it comes down to it, you look at this a little more closely here. Could it have been a red card? I'm going to say maybe. Could it have been a yellow card? Probably. Could it have been a no call? Probably not. Maybe just a generic foul. I would have been okay, and I think a lot of people were expecting a yellow card out of something like this. I know that the analysts in the booth were talking yellow card in this case. The red card came as a surprise to many. There has been some concerns and some questions about the favoritism, shall we say, to put it delicately. This picture was all over Twitter and social media yesterday. You know, red card for Balogun. In this case, Lionel Messi picks up that, no red card, not even a foul on that one right there, because Messi's Messi in this case. And, you have your staunch defenders who are always going to be like, he's the greatest ever. And then you have the other half, possibly the other 2/3, who are like, yeah, he's blatant favoritism, because he's Messi.
Yeah.
But that's been something that has existed throughout sports for a long time. They had that complaint about Michael Jordan 30 years ago, where Jordan would get no fouls on him or fouls, in their favor because of who he is in the name. LeBron James was another example on that. And it's historical all the way through, so this doesn't surprise me too much. But like I said, the magic question is, how is this team going to stack up against a Belgian team that's the top 10 in the league?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a very good, very good question. I mean, I don't know. It's what about Pulisic's health too? What about that?
That's
situation?
Another thing too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at Pulisic's health. You even look at Tim Ream's energy level at this point, because he's no spring chicken. There's a lot of concerns going into this match. Now, as you can see right here, Belgium is, like I said, the first team that the U.S. men's national team that is faced in the top 20.
Right.
They're a top 10 team. But up until this point, the highest ranked team that the U.S. has ever played was ranked 23rd. I think that, Turkey is 27th now, but 23rd was the highest that the U.S. team ranked 15th has ever had to deal with. And now they're facing a top 10 squad. And like I said, I'm going to break down the numbers as far as, the way the systems are and the way the teams play in a minute. But to the U.S.'s advantage, and this is a big, big, big advantage, they are playing in one of the most U.S. friendly stadiums on Monday.
Seattle.
Yep. Seattle Stadium. I will continue to call it Lumen Field. Give it love where it deserves. But that is a very pro-U.S. stadium there. If they were playing maybe an Asian team, might be a little bit different in this case. But they're going to be playing in front of a massive home crowd. And Seattle, as well as I do, is one of the loudest cities in the country. Yeah. The routine thing is 12th man, Seahawks versus Kansas City and Arrowhead, or whatever they're calling it these days. Which one has the louder volume? And you look at that town; it is one of the greatest, most loyal sports towns in the country. I think honestly, it should be top 2. I really do. But that that city right there is exactly what the U.S. team needs. Go ahead. Sorry.
Nah, you broke up. I don't know something. I couldn't hear you.
I hate to say it's probably
say that. Say what you say. Say it again.
Optimum's upload speed sucks ass, man. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, Belgium. I mean, you looked at their last match. I mean, they had that late comeback. You're down 2-0, and they're able to, they're able to win in regulation 3-2, and extra time. But. I don't know. Balogun is going to be tough, having him out. You're going to be tested, I think, I know he's expected to step into this, that starting striker role. But, you're going to have a high defensive work rate more than likely.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do that in order to, maintain possession. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. And like I said, you got Pulisic. Had that calf injury in the opener, and he hasn't been, I don't know, he hasn't been 100%, with that. And you've got some elite talent on Belgium. Kevin De Bruyne, there's some pretty solid talent there.
Yeah.
But it seems to me though they've kind of relied heavily on substitutions and just kind of sparks off the bench if you look at Belgium.
This, by the way, is the breakdown of the goal distribution that they've had so far. The assists you'll see on the left side, the goals you see on the right side. But
that's what I mean. I mean they've relied heavily on sparks off the bench, if you will. So.
And in this case, like I said, you got three. Here's the thing: you have three different players here with 2 goals each. That's balance. They're coming off a massive come-from-behind win against Senegal. They were down 2-0. They scored 3 in the second half, including 120 plus added time. Which was a heartbreaker and a half for Senegal, man. Right. But if the U.S., I think, if the U.S. was facing Senegal, this would be a different conversation. Because Senegal would have been prime upset in this case, and you could argue that maybe the U.S. could face off against that. But again, you're facing a Belgian team here with 3 different players with 2 goals, and that's balance.
Right.
Now, by the same comparison here, if you switch it over here, Folarin Balogun has 3 goals. Everybody else has 1. Berhalter, Tillman, Freeman, Gio Reyna, and Trusty, who's injured now yesterday. So you have 3 goals with 1. 5 goals from 5 other players here. So it's going to force a lot of players to have to step up. Tillman's going to have to step up. Freeman's going to have to step up. You might see more Berhalter. Berhalter's father, Greg Berhalter, was in attendance last night watching, which, former U.S. men's national team coach himself, to kind of watch and analyze this and, cheer on the team that he led for a while there. But boy, there is a lot of questions about what's going to happen with this squad on Monday. And who's going to set up. And I'm sure in their team meetings right now, they are looking through all this. They're going through footage. They're breaking things down. And someone's going to step up. My question is, and I'm curious to get your thoughts here, is do you think they're going to maybe go possibly with 5 in the backfield?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. I mean, like I said, you're really going to have to – you're going to have a high work rate to try and maintain possession on this one. You're without – there's just you're going to have to really – I mean, they did a decent job against Bosnia. But, it's just – I'm sorry.
No, dude, you're fine. Listen, it happens to all – anybody who's watching this right now is probably like, yeah, this season sucks ass. It does. Yeah. Don't apologize. Here, I'll make you feel better. Had one of my own legit.
Yeah.
But – again, I guess the question remains is what can this team do against a Belgian squad that's so balanced?
Right.
And you could imagine maybe 5 in the back. I don't think they're going to do 5 in the backfield, but it wouldn't surprise me too much if they did. Yeah. They may go with like a 4-4-3 sort of a setup, a little bit more defense first, and try to wait for possible opportunities. But again, this is not Turkey. This is not Australia. This is not Paraguay. This is Belgium.
Right.
And they coming into this tournament, they have never in their history, the U.S. has never beaten a European team.
Right.
In 11 matches. And that says a massive thing. There was an actual triangle that was created that showed every single World Cup team winner. And it all came down to South America and Europe. Never the U.S., never North America, never Asia. It was always those teams, never Australia. It always came down to Europe or a couple of countries in South America, and that's all it ever was. So this team right now, the U.S. team, which has gotten to the round of 16, they have done what they're supposed to do. They have gotten where they're supposed to go. But this is absolutely their biggest test. And one other thing we didn't talk about, which I do have a question on, is Matt Freeze's shoulder is starting to show signs. Now, I've watched the shoulder. He's had shoulder issues and pain there for a couple of years now, off radar. I've watched it from behind the scenes here with NYCFC. He was showing pain yesterday in that shoulder when he stretched. Mm-hmm. And it's a concern here about he's going to push through. I know he's going to push through. He's only 27, and no way in hell is he going to give up that position. But you have to wonder, is that going to limit his performance a little bit here, or is he just going to get shot up with everything possible right before that match and push through for 90?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to hit him with some cortisone. Yeah, they're definitely. Yeah, it's been. You could tell it's been bothering him. He's been dealing with it.
Yeah. So like
very good question. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, when he came up limp and when his shoulder was bothering him, and you could see the pain that he was in. Because he's had that issue before. Like I said, there's been times where he's stretched out like this, and then even right now, I can feel it like in the rotator cuff as I'm doing it. Maybe that's not where it is. I'm not sure, but I can feel pain on my side because. By the way, rule of thumb in jiu-jitsu, if you're in an arm bar, never think you're smart enough to be and strong enough to be able to pull yourself out of it. But again, in his concern is this something that's going to affect him range of motion wise? And will Belgium, who looks at that, be trying to exploit the right side of the box, knowing the fact that he's struggling a little bit? I would say probably yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they're going to test it. Yeah, no doubt about it.
You know, I mean, like I said, a lot of major concerns when it comes to this team. They are, like I said, they're playing in the best team-friendly stadium they're going to get in Seattle, much more than, say, MetLife, much more than, I mean, the only other possible place you might be able to get it is maybe, Midwest. But I think, again, you've landed the best spot possible. They've been really fortunate with that, playing on the West Coast like they have been. Again, the hydration breaks came up in conversation yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw that, because San Francisco was a balmy 72 degrees Fahrenheit, which is probably around 20 degrees Celsius, give or take on that. Maybe not, maybe like 15 degrees Celsius, I think. But just like I said, it was balmy. It was nice. It was sweet. And breaking away from a hydration break, 5 minutes after a VAR or added time for injury or all this kind of stuff, which became its own hydration break. But Fox Sports will make $250 million on ad revenue, so something's got to happen there. I read one thing. But Seattle, again, good location. I think best location they could possibly be in. A Monday night game, 5 p.m., coming off a holiday weekend as well, which is also a big deal too, because there's a lot of people that are going to be taking off for this game. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a good one. Would you say that this is a pick'em game if you're an odds maker?
No.
No?
I say it's a Belgian game. 65-35 is the odds I'm giving this right now.
Okay.
Because, again, you're out Balogun. U.S. is facing a team that, stronger than they've ever faced, stronger than themselves for the first time in the tournament, a balanced team who has been here before. They know every 4 years what to expect. They have been through this, a team that historically has good history, and a U.S. team as well. Let's add to this, we haven't discussed this yet, that has not made it past the round of 16 since 2002. That is 5 straight tournaments where they have gotten as far as round of 16, sometimes not even that far, but have never advanced. So the pressure is on to do this for the first time in 24 years to move to the round of 8. If Balogun was still in that lineup, different conversation. I would stack this probably 55-45 in favor of Belgium. But without him, 65-35, maybe even worse. Sorry, I'm a pessimist.
No, I mean, I'm kind of leaning more towards it. I read an article that they said that this could be a pick'em game, but I'm kind of with you. They're at a strong disadvantage, no doubt. So
now, at the other side of the equation, if the U.S. can pull off a 1-0 win, then you know what? Anything's on the table. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'd be playing around July 10th or 11th, however the math works out. So again, you get that rest time. But I think knowing the fact that they got past the round of 16 into the round of 8 is new territory and something they can walk away and be proud of. I think if they get eliminated here in the round of 16, and let me know your thoughts here, if they get eliminated now, does this fall into a disappointing season or campaign?
Well, yeah, I think so. But I think if you really look at what transpired in this last match, and they're down. Pulisic's not 100%. Now you don't have Balogun. I mean, Freeze is dealing with an injury. I mean, the excuses. But it's yeah. I mean, it would probably it would be a disappointment for sure. Absolutely. I wouldn't look at it like they, I wouldn't look at it anything positive to build on. So.
I mean, like I said, it opens up a lot of questions because this team right now, Balogun has done more than basically has been asked of him right now.
Yeah,
a little bit of a surprise. I don't think really a lot of people expected him to pull out the numbers he's been, but he has been a tour de force with the brace early on and the goal that he had picked up right here, and a game winner also. He's had 2 game winners this tournament, which is again a huge deal. But he is not a leader. He's that quiet guy underneath. Right. It's more of a Tim Ream being a leader, Matt Freese being a leader. It's funny because Matt Freese has gotten a lot more intense in the last couple of years. The bigger his resume has gotten, the higher profile he becomes, the angrier he seems to get.
Right.
Robin mentioned that last night. It's like, I don't like the new Fred Freeze. He's always angry all the time. It's like, yeah, his profile's raising, man. And that come that transfer window, NYCFC is going to have to make some decisions on this. But they're going to be fielding some calls, and he might be gone before the end of the year. And it wouldn't surprise me, or basically before the season opens.
Right.
I'll be curious to see if that ends up happening or not. But I think it's Thomas Romero's time, for that team. And I think they're going to, at this point, I think it would be interesting because Freeze has been this mainstay in net for NYCFC for a long time. And that they're going to get some coin for him. They're going to get some serious coin for him.
Right.
15, 20 million, I think at least in euros, I'm talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a conversation for later. But again, I'm proud of the kid because I watched him from a no-name backup all the way to what he is now. And it's nice. So, all right. So, figure we'll talk this one real quick here. The Chicago Fire, and I mentioned Greg Berhalter briefly. Chicago Fire just added a massive powerhouse in Robert Lewandowski. The striker from Barcelona with, I think, 80 something, what was it? 83 goals in 134 matches at this point, has joined the Chicago Fire and made this team, which was struggling a couple of years ago, into an absolute bona fide powerhouse in the East. It opens up some questions about what they're going to do with Hugo Kuipers. That's a big question on that one. But you added a veteran who's going to be playing in Chi-Town. They got a new stadium coming in the near future, which is huge because Soldier Field is terrible to look at. Unbridledly terrible to look at. You literally have the logo for Soldier Field there. That's not going to matter anymore because obviously there's, the Bears are moving to the Indiana Bears. So Soldier Field's going to be gone that way too. But a good player right now, a great leader. And now he's going into a league that's a level below. And I think he could be somebody who's even bigger than Messi for this league.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing this coming for a while now, and it's I don't know, I think his time in Barcelona was up, and we've been hearing about this for a while, and now that it's starting to come to fruition, I'm not really shocked, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I mean, he's 37 years old, so you do have to look at it from that standpoint. So it is that same, you spend your retirement years in the U.S. kind of a situation. But right. 4 seasons in Barcelona. What is the numbers here? Yeah, 83 goals right here. 238 shots. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 83 goals so far. 238 goals with Munich, and then a couple other stragglers in there as well. But I mean, wow, that's, like I said, that's huge. 14 goals with Barcelona this year so far, and somebody that, while you have major questions about what Berhalter is going to end up doing when it comes to Hugo Kuipers, who had a great season of his own, you suddenly find this guy displaced. And what do you do? What do you do with him is the question I got now as well. Where do you put him? What do you do with him? A lot of questions there. But Chicago, you think it got better?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. Yeah, absolutely.
So
I've been saying it for a while now. Chicago's was a team that was on the up. I noticed that they were starting to make moves. Last year they would. I kept saying they were down for a while, but I kept saying that they're a team that's I think is going to continue to improve. And yeah, I think it bolsters them for sure. Absolutely.
Right now you're looking at a team that's third place overall in the East at the moment. Coming in right now with 26 points. Nashville and Miami are ahead of them right now. But this is like, again, you have someone with a veteran presence in the biggest league in the world, and now he's going to AAA soccer.
Yeah.
I like what's happening right there. Again, I think from an NYCFC perspective, you got some concerns there because they're hanging on by a thread in the points department themselves. But for Chicago, you have to look at them as a possible MLS Cup champion right now. I think you have to.
Okay. Yeah.
Just go ahead.
No, nothing. I'm really I keep coughing. This is rough on me today. I probably.
All right. Well, we're almost done anyway. I figure we roll about 30 minutes. So
Okay.
So I'll close this one out in this case. But
Yeah.
like I said, you have a Chicago Fire team right now that's averaging just under 2 goals a game. So you got a team that, for what it's worth, has been solid, but mainly solid because of the defense that they've had. We're allowing just under a goal a game. Miami, massive concerns on that side of the fence because my God, they're averaging nearly 2 goals a game themselves. That is an offensive powerhouse, but a defensive weakness.
Right.
So you now have someone like Lewandowski coming in who can be and not just an offensive presence, but also maintain ball possession and ball control.
Right.
And keep the ball away from whatever opponent's there for literally the last we'll call it 2/3 of the season here. So the question I do have a little bit, the concern that I have is what kind of wheels is he going to have at 37 years old, having already played for, a bunch of matches already with Premier League anyway. So questions a little bit on that side of it, how much they're going to use him, how much they're going to play him, how many minutes he's going to get and when he's going to come in. But in this case, the big part of that is the fact he's got a couple of weeks to be able to acclimate to the new squad. The squads are already back in training anyway right now. So even if they're even with missing players, all of MLS right now is still in training. They're still in process, and they're still building around the players that currently exist. So he's going to get a good solid 2 weeks with his new squad before he's going to hit pay dirt. And I think that's going to get him some time. Will he start? Maybe not. But ticket sales, I guarantee, for Chicago are going to rise. So,
Yep. So,
all right. Any other thoughts? You think we're good?
I think we're good.
Cool. All right. So we will wrap this out at this point here. Let me know your thoughts. Does the U.S. have a shot against Belgium? Was that call against Balogun complete BS? A lot of questions, a lot of curiosity. It's going to be a great match on Monday, regardless of what happens anyway. For this case here, I'm Scott Churchson, Mr. Bill Akins. Thank you for muscling through on that. I appreciate it. Take care. Stay well.